The unwanted child. The night was cold, and the wind cut through the empty streets like sharp knives. In the corner of a broken wall, a small alien girl sat with her knees pulled tight to her chest. Her thin arms wrapped around herself as if they were the only shield she had against the cruel world. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled, and her eyes too big for her pale, hungry face. She was an orphan. No one wanted her. In her world, being born weak was a curse. A female was supposed to be strong, beautiful, and desirable for mates. But she was none of those things. Her people laughed at her. They whispered that she was useless, not worth feeding, not worth loving. Even other children stayed away from her, calling her dirty, broken, and cursed. Every day, she tried to survive. She searched through garbage for scraps of food. Sometimes she begged, but the answer was always the same. A cruel hand shoving her away, or a voice spitting at her. Go, you worthless thing. You are not even a female. Her small heart grew heavier with every rejection. She began to believe their words. She thought maybe they were right. Maybe she was nothing. Maybe she was not worth looking at, not worth saving. But deep inside, a tiny spark refused to die. One night, as the sky was heavy with clouds and rain threatened to fall, she crawled under an abandoned roof. She shivered, her stomach empty, her throat dry. Her eyes closed, and she whispered to herself, "Why was I even born? No one wants me." And then she heard footsteps. Her heart jumped in fear. She pressed herself against the wall, trying to make herself invisible. Maybe it was someone coming to push her away again. Maybe it was someone coming to hurt her. She had learned that the world was not kind to the weak. The footsteps stopped. A shadow fell across her. She looked up with wide, terrified eyes. It was not one of her own kind. It was a human. He stood tall, his face partly hidden by the dark, but his eyes seemed different. Not filled with disgust, not filled with anger, just curious and soft. The girl's lips trembled. She pulled her knees closer and hissed weakly, "Go away." It was all she could manage, her voice no louder than a whisper. But the human did not go. He crouched down slowly, lowering himself so that his eyes met hers. He spoke gently, his voice calm. "What are you doing here, little one?" No one had ever asked her that before. She blinked at him, unsure if she should answer. Her throat tightened. Finally, she whispered, I have no place. No one wants me." The human studied her. His eyes scanned the bruises on her arms, the thinness of her body, the way her bones pressed against her skin. For a long moment, he said nothing. The girl expected him to leave like everyone else. That was always how it went. People looked at her, then walked away. But he didn't. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out something small. It was food. Bread. He broke it in half and held it out to her. The girl's eyes widened. She shook her head, not believing. For me?" she asked in disbelief. The human gave a small smile. "Yes, for you." Her hand trembled as she reached for it. She hesitated, afraid he would pull it back at the last second, laughing at her desperation. But he didn't. He let her take it. She bit into it, and tears rolled down her cheeks. The bread was rough, dry. But to her, it was the sweetest thing she had ever tasted. She had forgotten what kindness felt like. The human watched her eat. His heart ached as he saw how hungrily she devoured the bread. He had seen many things in his life, but something about this broken little alien child cut deeper than any wound. When she finished, she looked at him with those wide, shining eyes. For the first time, someone had not pushed her away. For the first time, someone had given her something without asking anything in return. Her lips quivered again. She whispered, "Why? Why are you helping me? I am nothing. I am not even seen as a female. No one wants me. The human's gaze softened. He did not answer her right away. Instead, he studied her fragile face, her trembling hands, her desperate eyes, and then he said quietly, "Maybe no one else wants you, but I see you." The words struck her like lightning. She didn't understand them fully, but they warmed her frozen heart for the first time in her short, painful life. She felt like someone had truly looked at her. The human stood slowly and offered his hand. "Come," he said simply. "You don't have to stay here in the cold." The girl stared at his hand, torn between fear and hope. Every voice in her head screamed not to trust. But the small spark inside her pushed her forward. She reached out with trembling fingers, and in that moment, her life began to change. Because when no one else saw her, a human did. A glimpse of kindness, the girl's small hand trembled as it touched the human's palm. His hand was warm, strong, and steady, so different from the cold stones and cruel hands that had always pushed her away. She hesitated, expecting him to pull back or strike her, but he did not. He simply held her hand gently, helping her rise from the ground. Her legs shook. She was so weak, she could barely stand. The human noticed this and bent slightly, placing his arm around her shoulders. She flinched at first, but he only guided her carefully, making sure she did not fall. They walked together down the quiet street. She kept glancing up at him, her wide eyes filled with fear and confusion. "Why? Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. The human's voice was calm, almost firm. "Because no child should be left out here alone. Not on a night like this." The words made her chest tighten. She looked down quickly, afraid of the feelings rising inside her. Nobody had ever said such things to her before. The human led her to a small shelter at the edge of town, a place where he lived alone. The walls were simple, made of stone and wood, but to the girl, felt like a castle compared to the broken corners she usually slept in. Warmth greeted her as soon as he opened the door. Inside, a fire burned softly in the corner. The heat touched her skin, and she almost cried. She had forgotten what warmth felt like. "Sit," the human said gently, pointing toward a wooden chair. She obeyed, sitting stiffly, as if afraid she might break something. Her eyes darted around the room, suspicious, alert. She had learned never to trust too easily. The human moved around calmly, as if her presence was not strange to him. He poured water into a cup and placed it before her. "Drink." Her hands shook as she lifted it. The cool water touched her lips, and she drank greedily. When the cup was empty, she clutched it to her chest as if it was treasure. The human watched her quietly. He did not laugh. He did not call her filthy. He simply nodded and gave her another piece of bread. She ate. Slower this time, her eyes still fixed on him. You are different," she whispered. He raised an eyebrow. "Different." She nodded, swallowing hard. "Others, they only see me as dirt. Not even female, just waste. But you." She stopped, her throat too tight to continue. The human leaned against the table. His face was calm but serious. "I don't care what others see. I see a child who is cold and hungry. That is enough." Her eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away, ashamed. Crying had always brought her more punishment, not comfort. After a while, the human placed a blanket over her small shoulders. She stiffened at the touch, then slowly relaxed. The warmth spread through her body, making her feel safe in a way she had never known. But safety was dangerous, she thought. Safety could disappear. Don't you hate me?" she asked. Suddenly, her voice was sharp, almost accusing. The human looked at her, puzzled. "Why would I hate you?" "Because everyone does." she cried, gripping the blanket tightly. They say I am weak, useless, cursed. They say I cannot be wanted. Her voice broke, and she looked away, ashamed of the truth. The human sighed. He knelt so that his eyes were level with hers. His tone was steady. They are wrong. The girl froze. No one had ever said those words to her. You are alive, he continued. That alone means you are worth something. You are more than what they call you. Don't forget that. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but the weight of years of rejection crushed her. Yet his voice, so firm and gentle, planted a small seed inside her heart. The fire crackled. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean back in the chair and breathe slowly. The shadows of fear that always haunted her began to soften. Later that night, as the human prepared a small bed in the corner for her, she watched him closely. He worked without complaint, moving as if caring for her was natural. When he finished, he gestured to the blanket-covered bed. Sleep, you need rest. She hesitated. Her instincts screamed not to trust, but her body was too weak, too tired. Slowly, she lay down. The blanket covered her like a shield, warm and heavy. The human sat nearby, not far from her. He did not leave her alone in the strange room. His presence was steady, like a silent guard. She stared at him through half-closed eyes. A thought entered. Her mind, fragile and uncertain. Maybe I am not invisible. Maybe I am not nothing. Her breathing slowed. For the first time in her life, she drifted to sleep without the fear of being kicked, beaten, or abandoned. The human watched her for a long time, while something in him stirred anger at the cruelty she had endured. And a quiet promise he did not yet speak aloud. He whispered softly, as if only to himself, no one else wanted you. But I do. The firelight glowed, and outside, the night grew darker. Inside, a spark of kindness had been lit, and it would soon change both their lives forever. Whispers of the past the morning light crept through the cracks of the small shelter. The fire had died down to ashes, but warmth still lingered in the air. The alien girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. For a moment, she forgot where she was. No cold stones, no harsh voices, no hands pushing her away. Only a blanket over her and the faint smell of bread. Her gaze shifted. The human was sitting near the table, sharpening a small blade. His movements were calm, focused. When he noticed her waking, he looked up. You slept well? He asked softly. She blinked, confused. No one had ever cared about her sleep. I think so, she whispered. The human smiled faintly. Good, you needed it. She sat up slowly, clutching the blanket to her chest. A heavy silence filled the room. Something inside her twisted, a mix of gratitude and fear. Gratitude because he had shown her kindness. Fear because kindness always came with a price. The human placed the blade down. You don't have to be afraid here, he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes searched hers, as if trying to understand her silence. She lowered her head, her fingers tightening on the blanket. You don't know me, she muttered. If you did, you wouldn't say that. The human leaned forward slightly. Then tell me, let me know you. The words hung in the air. They frightened her more than anger ever had. No one had ever asked for her story before. No one wanted to hear the voice of the unwanted. She swallowed hard. Memories clawed their way to the surface. Memories she had buried deep to survive. Her chest ached as she whispered, I was born in the lower district of my people, my mother. She died when I was small. I don't even remember her face. My father, he left. Said I was a mistake. Said I was not worth his time. Her voice shook, but she kept going. Others, they looked at me and saw weakness. My body was small, my bones thin. They laughed and said I would never be a true female. In our kind, only strong females are valued. Only they are chosen as mates. I was nothing. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. She hated crying. It made her feel even weaker. They called me cursed, she whispered. Said the gods had marked me as useless. Even when I begged for food, they spat at me. Sometimes they threw stones. Her voice broke, and she pressed her hands to her face. I stopped begging after that. The human's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with quiet anger, not at her, but at the cruelty she had endured. He forced his voice to remain calm. So, you ran. You lived alone. She nodded. Slowly, her voice barely audible. I searched for scraps. I slept in shadows. I tried not to be seen. It was easier that way. If no one saw me, they couldn't hurt me. Her words fell into silence. The fire crackled softly, filling the emptiness. The human finally spoke. You've carried this pain for so long. The girl lowered her hands. Her eyes were red, her face pale. It doesn't matter. I am not like the others. I will never be wanted, never be chosen. I am not even a female to them. Just dirt. The human stood and walked to her. She tensed, ready for the blow that never came. Instead, he knelt before her, his voice steady and sure. Listen to me, he said firmly. You are not dirt. You are not cursed. You are alive. That means you are worth something. Her breath caught. She shook her head quickly. No one believes. That I do. His words were like stone, unshakable. Her eyes widened. She stared at him, searching for mockery, waiting for the cruel laugh that always came. But there was none. His gaze was steady, filled with something she had never seen before. Belief, she whispered, almost trembling. Why? Why do you see me differently? The human paused, then said quietly, because I don't look at what you lack. I see what you are. I see strength, even if you don't. You survived all this. That takes more strength than any of them will ever understand. Heart pounded. The words wrapped around her like fire, chasing away the cold. She wanted to believe him, but the scars of her past held her back. Still, something inside her stirred, a fragile hope rising from the ashes of despair. The human rose to his feet. From now on, you're not alone. Whatever they say, whatever they think, you have me. Her lips parted. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. For the first time, she wasn't ashamed of them. That night, when the fire burned again and shadows danced on the walls, the girl whispered to herself, maybe I am more than nothing. And though her voice was weak, it was the beginning of a truth she would one day believe. The world against them, the days passed slowly. But for the alien girl, each one felt like a new life. She no longer slept on cold stones. She no longer searched through garbage for scraps. The human gave her food, water, and a safe place to rest. For the first time, she felt warmth, not just on her skin, but deep inside her chest. But kindness never goes unnoticed. Whispers began to spread in the alien settlement. People saw her walking near the human shelter. They saw her carrying bread in her hands, her thin frame no longer starving. And instead of pity, their eyes filled with disgust. One evening, as the girl stepped outside to fetch water from a group of alien women stood waiting. Their faces were sharp, their eyes cruel. One of them sneered. So this is where you've been hiding? With him? The girl froze, clutching the bucket tightly. Another woman laughed coldly. How fitting. No one in our kind would ever take you. But a human, of course? He doesn't know what you are. Worthless. The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The words cut into her like knives. The same words she had heard all her life. Then a deeper voice broke through the laughter. Enough! The human had stepped out of the shelter. His gaze was hard, his presence towering. He moved between the girl and the women, shielding her. Leave her alone. The women hissed in anger. One spat on the ground. You don't understand. She is nothing. A stain. She should not even live. The human's jaw tightened. She is under my care now. You have a problem? Face me. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. The women glared at him, then turned away with angry whispers. But their voices carried. This will not end well. You'll regret keeping her. The girl trembled. She whispered, you shouldn't have done that. Now they will hate you too. The human turned to her. His voice was firm. Let them hate me. I don't care. What I care about is you. Her chest ached. No one had ever stood for her before. She lowered her head, tears burning her eyes. The next day, more trouble came. A group of alien males arrived at the human shelter. Their leader, tall and broad, spoke with disdain. Human, give her up. She does not belong with you. She is filth, unwanted even by her own kind. The human stood tall, unshaken. She belongs where she is safe, and here, with me, she is safe. The leader snarled. You insult us by keeping her. She is proof of weakness. If you protect her, you shame our people. The human's voice was calm but sharp. Then let it shame you. I will not cast her out. The alien males growled, but they did not attack. They spat curses and stormed away, their threats echoing in the air. Inside the shelter, the girl sat quietly by the fire. Hands twisted in her lap, her head bowed. They will hurt you because of me, she whispered, but you should let me go. I am not worth it. The human knelt beside her. His eyes were steady, his tone unshakable. You are worth it. Don't ever say you are not. Her breath caught. She searched his face for lies, but there were none. He meant every word. That night, she lay awake under the blanket, staring at the flickering fire. The world outside hated her more than ever. They would never forgive her for finding shelter with a human. But for the first time, she was not facing it alone. The human's voice echoed in her mind. You are worth it. The next morning, things grew. Worse, a crowd gathered outside the human's shelter. They shouted, demanding he release her. Some threw stones at the walls, others shouted curses at the girl. She cowered in the corner, her small hands covering her ears. Her body shook with fear. This was the world she knew, the world that wanted her gone. But then she heard the human's voice above the noise. He stepped outside, standing tall before the crowd. Listen to me, he shouted. His voice carried strength, sharp and unyielding. She has done nothing to you. You call her cursed, but the curse is your cruelty. You call her weak, but she is stronger than any of you. She survived what would have killed others, and I will not let you harm her. The crowd murmured angrily, but none dared step forward. His words struck something deep, even in their hardened hearts. Inside, the girl's tears fell silently. She pressed her hand to her chest, where her heart pounded wildly. For the first time, she realized he was not just protecting her. He was fighting for her. That night, when the crowd finally dispersed, the girl whispered to him as he sat near. The fire? Why? Why do you fight for me when everyone else says I am nothing? The human looked at her with steady eyes. Because they are wrong, and because I see you. Her lips trembled. She wanted to speak, but only one tear fell, carrying All the pain of her past and all the hope of her future. The world was against them, but for the first time, she was not alone. Growing bonds. The storm outside had passed, but inside the human's small shelter, a different kind of warmth was growing. The alien girl, once silent and afraid, began to move more freely. At first, she only watched the human quietly, her wide eyes following his every step. But slowly, little by little, she began to help. One morning, when the human went to fetch water, he returned to find the fire already lit. The girl sat beside it, her small hands trembling as she tried to keep the flame alive. She looked up quickly. When he entered, her face anxious. I wanted to try," she whispered. The human smiled gently. "You did well." Her heart leaped. A simple praise, but it felt like sunlight after endless night. No one had ever told her she had done well. No one had ever valued her efforts. Over time, she started doing small things. She swept the floor with an old broom, arranged the wooden bowls neatly on the shelf, even tried to cook simple meals with the few supplies the human brought. Sometimes the food burned. Sometimes it was too salty, but the human never scolded her. He ate quietly, then said, "You'll get better." Each word of patience and encouragement built a bridge inside her, a bridge toward trust. At night, she would sit by the fire while he worked on small tools or repaired his clothes. Sometimes she asked questions in a timid voice. "You come here? Why do humans live so far from their world?" He would answer with calm honesty. "It's because sometimes we must go where others don't. To trade, to explore, to see what's beyond." She listened, her eyes wide. His stories of Earth, of rivers, forests, and blue skies sounded like dreams. She could almost see them in her mind. For a moment, she forgot she was the unwanted one. She forgot. She was nothing, but trust was a fragile thing. One evening, she dropped a clay bowl by accident. It shattered on the ground, the sound sharp and loud. Panic shot through her body. She froze, waiting for the blow, waiting for the shout. Her hands trembled, her chest tightened. But the human only walked over, crouched down, and helped her pick up the pieces. His voice was calm. "It's just a bowl." She blinked at him, confused. "You're not angry?" "Why would I be? It was an accident." Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but all her life, accidents had meant pain. She whispered, "Others would have struck me." The human's jaw tightened. He looked at her with firm eyes. "Then they were wrong. I will never strike you." Her heart thudded. For the first time, she let out a shaky laugh, small, fragile, but real. Day by day, her fear lessened. She began to hum softly while working. She asked questions about human customs. She even smiled sometimes, a rare, precious sight that made the human pause, as if the entire room brightened with it. But outside, the world still hated them. People still whispered when they saw her carrying bread from the market. They muttered that she was cursed, and now the human was cursed too. But inside the shelter, their words faded. One night, while the wind howled outside, the girl sat close to the fire. She glanced at the human, who was fixing a lantern. Her voice was small but steady. "Why do you not leave me? Everyone says I am worthless, but you stay." The human looked up. His eyes softened. "'Cause worth is not given by others. It is found inside. And I see it in you, even if you don't yet." Her throat tightened. She looked down quickly, hiding her tears. But a quiet warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had never known before. Later, when she lay on her blanket, she whispered into the dark, "He sees me." The words wrapped around her like a shield, keeping the shadows away. As days turned to weeks, she began to change. She stood straighter. She spoke louder. She even laughed once when the human slipped slightly while carrying water. her laugh startled her, but the human smiled as if it was the best sound he had ever heard. Their bond was no longer just about survival. It was something deeper, something unspoken. She found herself looking forward to his return whenever he went out. She noticed the small things, the way his hands were always steady, the way his eyes grew gentle when he looked at her, the way he never once turned away. And in the quiet of the night, when the fire burned low, she allowed herself a dangerous thought. Maybe I am not just surviving. Maybe I am living. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the steady beat of her heart. For the first time, it didn't feel like a curse. It felt like hope, and though she could not yet say the words, she knew deep inside the bond between her and the human was growing stronger every day. The decision the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Inside the small shelter, the girl was stirring a pot of soup. She had learned to cook better, and her face glowed with quiet pride as the scent filled the room. The human sat near the fire, sharpening a blade as he always did, his steady presence a comfort to her. But the peace did not last. The sound of heavy footsteps shook the ground outside. Shadows loomed through the cracks in the door. Then came the voice, deep, commanding, full of authority. "Human, come out." The girl froze, her hands trembling on the wooden spoon. She recognized that voice. It belonged to the elders of her people, the ones whose word was law. The human rose slowly, his jaw tight. He glanced at the girl. "Stay inside." Her heart pounded. Fear clawed at her chest. She wanted to beg him not to go, but the look in his eyes stopped her. He wasn't afraid. The door opened, and the human stepped outside. 3 alien elders stood before the shelter, their robes heavy, their faces marked with years of power. Behind them, a crowd gathered, whispering like a restless sea. One elder stepped forward. His eyes burned with disdain. "You shame us, human. You protect what should be cast away. The girl is cursed, worthless, unfit even to be called female. Release her." The human stood tall, his voice calm but sharp. "She is not cursed. She is a child, and she is under my care. I will not release her." The elder's lips curled in anger. "You defy our traditions. No male of our kind would claim her. Even as an orphan, she has no value. By keeping her, you bring dishonor not only to us, but to yourself." The human's eyes narrowed. "If your honor is built on cruelty to a child, then your honor is worth nothing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one had ever spoken to the elders this way. Inside the shelter, the girl pressed her hands to her mouth, her body shaking. Every word pierced her. Part of her wanted him to stop, to give her up so he would not suffer. But another part, deep and fragile, prayed he would not. The second elder spoke, his voice cold as ice. "You are not of our kind. You do not understand. Weakness spreads like disease. If she remains, she will poison you too. Let her die alone, as she was meant to." The human's hands clenched at his sides, but his voice remained steady. "She has survived more than any of you ever could. If that is weakness, then I would rather be weak with her than strong like you." The crowd murmured louder, divided now. Some sneered, others looked uneasy. The third elder leaned forward, his tone dangerous. "This is your last chance, human. Cast her out, or we will make you regret your defiance." The human's answer came without hesitation. "No." The word cut through the air like a blade. Silence fell. The crowd held its breath. Inside the shelter, the girl's tears spilled down her cheeks. She pressed her trembling hands to her heart. He had chosen. He had chosen her. The first elder's eyes burned with fury. "So be it. From this day forward, you stand against us. If you protect her, you take her curse as your own. Do not expect mercy." The elders turned sharply and left, their robes sweeping the dirt. The crowd followed, some spitting at the ground, others whispering in disbelief. When the human stepped back inside, the girl was sitting on the floor, her face hidden in her hands. "You heard," he said quietly. She looked up at him, her eyes red and wet. "Why? Why did you do that? Now they will hate you too. They will never forgive you. You could have let me go." The human knelt beside her. His voice was steady, but his eyes softened. "I will never let you go." Her breath caught. She shook her head, not believing. "But I'm nothing," he reached out, gently lifting her chin so her eyes met his. "You are not nothing. You are worth everything." Her lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. His gaze was unshakable, his promise undeniable. For a long moment, silence filled the room. The fire crackled softly, the air thick with unspoken truths. Finally, the girl whispered, her voice breaking, "All my life, no one wanted me. Not as a child, not as a female, always thrown away, always alone. But you don't turn away." The human gave a small nod. "Ah, and I never will." She buried her face in her hands, but this time her tears were not of despair. They were of something new, something terrifying, something beautiful. Hope that night. As she lay beneath her blanket, she whispered into the dark, "He chose me." The words echoed in her heart like a secret song, one she would never forget. And, though the world outside turned against them, inside that small shelter, a decision had been made, a decision that would change everything. The bond that shocked everyone's turned into weeks, and the human shelter became more than just walls of stone and wood. It became a home, not because of the fire or the food, but because of the bond growing between him and the alien. Girl, she was no longer the trembling orphan who hid in the shadows. She stood straighter now. She laughed sometimes, even if only in small bursts. She learned to cook without burning the food, to sweep without leaving dust behind, and even to sing soft songs she remembered from her childhood. But outside, hatred grew like wildfire. The elders had not forgotten the human's defiance. Whispers filled the streets. "The human has taken her. He sees her as female, though no male of ours ever did." Shameful. The girl heard those whispers whenever she went to the well or the market. Their words cut her, but she no longer walked with her head down. Somewhere deep inside, she carried his voice. "You are worth everything." Still, the day came when whispers turned into action. The elders called for a gathering in the center of the settlement. Everyone came, men, women, children. The human was summoned, and so was she. The girl's heart pounded as they walked together through the crowd. People stared, some with disgust, some with curiosity, others with silent fear. At the front, the elders stood on a raised platform. Their voices rang out, sharp and heavy. "Human," the first elder said, "you were warned, yet you continue to keep this cursed child. You dare to treat her as if she has value." The crowd murmured, their eyes fixed on the pair. The second elder pointed at the girl. "She is nothing, not a female, not a mate. She is a mistake of the gods. If you claim her, you insult us all." The girl trembled. Every cruel word she had ever heard echoed in her mind. She wanted to run, to vanish into the shadows like before. But then she felt his hand brush against hers, steady, strong, silent. She looked up at him, and her fear lessened. The third elder's voice thundered. "Decide now, human. Leave her here and walk away, or stand with her and be cast out forever." The crowd grew restless. All eyes were on him. The human stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. His voice rang out, calm but unyielding. You call her nothing. You call her cursed, but I see what you refuse to see. She is stronger than any of you who mock her. She has survived hunger, loneliness, cruelty, and still she stands. Rippled through the crowd, he continued, his voice rising. You say she is not a female, but to me, she is. She is more than that. She is brave. She is kind. She is worthy of respect. And if none of you can see it, then that is your blindness, not hers. The girl's chest tightened. Tears blurred her vision. Never had anyone spoken of her like this. Not in front of everyone, not with such strength. The human turned to her, his eyes steady. In front of all, he said, from this day, I claim her as mine. Not out of pity, but out of choice. She is my companion, my partner, my equal. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in anger, others gasped in shock. Whispers turned into chaos. The elders were furious. You dare speak such words before us? A human claims what no male of our kind would ever take. Yes, he said firmly, his voice cutting through the noise. Because I see her, and I will not let her go. The girl's knees weakened. Her tears spilled freely now, but they were not tears of shame. They were tears of being seen, truly seen. For the first time in her life, she stepped forward, her small hand clutching his arm. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. He is the first to look at me and not turn away. If you call me nothing, then let me be nothing. But to him, I am something, and that is enough. The crowd fell silent. Even the elders paused, their anger held by the weight of her trembling but honest words. In that moment, something shifted. Not everyone's. Hearts changed, but whispers of doubt spread among them. If a human could see value where they saw none, perhaps their judgment was not as flawless as they believed. The elders dismissed them with threats, but it no longer mattered. The girl and the human walked back together, side by side. The crowd stared, but this time she did not lower her head. When they reached the shelter, she turned to him, her eyes still wet. Why did you say that? Before everyone. The human smiled faintly. Because it was the truth, and the truth should be spoken. Her lips quivered. She whispered, you changed everything. He shook his head gently. No, you changed everything the moment you survived. I only reminded you. She pressed her hand to her heart, her voice breaking. Then I am yours, always. And for the first time, she said it without fear, because she believed it. The bond that shocked everyone had been forged. Not by power, not by tradition, but by something greater. The simple, unshakable strength of a human's kindness. And in that bond, the unwanted child found what she had always longed for. A place, a home, a love.